High above on the planet's surface, the impossible time and spacecraft known as the TARDIS had materialized.
The famous red planet.
Mars? But isn't that the home of the, you-know-whats? Well, yes, maybe, but we're back in the past. The early days of your solar system. They can't have evolved yet. You've nothing to worry about.
Hi everyone, TARDIS Guy 123 here, back for the third take of my review of Lost Red Planet. I won't go into details as to why there were 3 takes, but it did quite annoy me. But nevertheless, hopefully this will be the last take. Fingers crossed. So let's just dive right into this review. So, Doctor Who, Razor Hines and Wendy Padbury perform Lords of the Red Planet by Brian Hales, adapted by John Dorney. Second Doctor, title sequence bit there, featuring Michael Troughton, the son of Patrick Troughton, Abigail for Charlie Hayes, with Nicholas Briggs as the Ice Warriors. Then up here you have the Lost Stories, Zoe there, Jamie there, Ice Warrior Claw coming out of, I believe that's Mars. Obviously not a literal representation, but just a nice little bit for the cover. And then down here you have the Ice Warrior eggs. So, oh, and BBC 50 Years and Big Finish. This is, you could class this as the 50th anniversary story, given that it was released in November 2013. But it's not, there's nothing really celebratory about it, other than the fact that it's Doctor Who and it's an unmade classic being made at last. So anyway, on the side here, it is, as you can see, a double case. Unfortunately, there is that black bit there, kind of like the black middle bit. It's unfortunate. I prefer the clear bit, kind of like fits in a bit more. It's odd because they included the clear one for, what was the story? They included the clear one for The Dark Planet, which I also got, but they didn't include it for this, which is rather a shame, but what you get is what you get, I guess. And you got 2 Second Doctor logos there, Doctor Who, Lords of the Red Planet, 4.3 Big Finish Productions down there. And yes, this is the penultimate Lost Story. The only one they made after this was, let me think, the Mega. I don't think they're going to be making any more after this, unfortunately. But, well, I guess you could say fortunately if you didn't like the Lost Stories range. I'm not sure who wouldn't like the Lost Stories range. Because it's just such an interesting idea for a Big Finish to like remake these, well, not remake, but make these unmade stories that would have been TV stories, but for one reason or another just didn't end up there. And let's go into the reason why this wasn't made, actually, while I'm on the topic of that. It was originally going to be where the Seeds of Death ended up being, because they liked the Ice Warriors in their original story. I didn't like the original story too much, although I did like the Ice Warriors in it, so, you know, that's a positive. But basically, Brian Hales wrote this origin story for them, however, it ended up being far too ambitious, so they said, we can't do that, let's do something a bit more, bit less over the top, a bit more achievable on the budget. So instead they went for The Seeds of Death, which is a wonderful story. So part of me feels happy that this one didn't end up being made. Not anything against this story, it's just that I feel The Seeds of Death is the better story. Although who knows, maybe if this wasn't made we would have had The Seeds of Death as a third Doctor story instead. I doubt it though, but yeah, I'm happy we got the Seeds of Death over this, even though this is a wonderful story. But anyway, down here you've got all this stuff again, directed by Lisa Bowerman, who also plays Bernice Summerfield, not in this, but in some other 7th Doctor plays. Fortunately there's a crack there, I think, but oh well, things do get damaged in the post. So let's open this up. You've got booklet there, let's just take that out, because it's just going to fall over if not. Then here you have disc 1 with parts 1 and 2 on it, and it's also got this bit in there with Doctor Who, Lords of the Red Planet, and that bit along the bottom there. Just that bit there, and if I open it up on the other side, we've got disc 2 there. Might as well just take that out. No, I won't take that out anyway. There's something behind that. And then disc 3 here with, goodness, that almost fell over, with 4th Doctor box set, The Dark Planet and Mission to Magnus. The Dark Planet is actually in the same dual case box as this, only clear, as I was mentioning before. And Mission to Magnus is the second story, I believe. So it's interesting how the second episode and the second to last episode, well, not episode, story, sorry, or release, both have Ice Warriors in them. But anyway, let's look at this. And there's also a third one with Ice Warriors in them. Thin Ice, that was it. I almost said Ice Time, which was the second title for it. I don't believe it was ever actually going to be the title. Just doesn't sound right. Thin Ice is a much better title. But anyway, you have the same as your cover, same as your alternative cover. Then here you have production notes from John Dorney, which is basically him explaining about how there were originally two kind of outlines for this, and he had to merge the best parts of both together to make the one that finally ended up being Lords of Red Planet audio. And unfortunately no art in the middle of this. You got an advertisement for the light at the end instead, which, you know, I would have preferred having some artwork in here. I don't believe the Mega has any artwork either, unfortunately. And I think that must mean the Queen of Time was the last release to have artwork in the middle, although they did bring it for Dark Eyes. But anyway, here you have credits and a nice picture of the majority of the cast there, minus Charlie Hayes. So then, with all this now done, let's talk about the Lords of the Red Planet itself as a story. Well, part one, let's go through this part by part, kind of, just talk about generally. Part one, you know, there's an introduction. It's okay, it's a good part one. It doesn't kind of like get you overly invested in the story like some other first parts have done, but it serves its purpose. It sets up for the most part, and then you go in, and a strong cliffhanger as well. Then you go into parts 2 and 3, and they are a bit dull. They are the low point of the story. No, not much happens. Characters move from point A to B, but you don't really see where it's all going. It's just a bit, not filler. It does do some interesting setting up, which is important for the later half. But at the same time, I just feel parts 2 and 3 could have been done a bit better. But part 4, that is where it kicks off. Parts 4 and 5 are amazing. It all kind of like goes really well from there. It goes places. It takes the stuff from parts 2 and 3 and does really good things with them. And you know, those are the most interesting parts. And part 6 takes it down a little bit. It just feels like some more cleaning up from the end of part 5 than anything else. But it's still a good story and provides a good end to the story itself. So yeah, quite like that part of it. So okay, first half, matched with a really strong second half. So, you know, go through those first 3 parts. If you make it through them, then it's really worth your while, because the second 3 parts are great. So let's talk about the cast now. Fraser Hines, of course, plays, well, doubles up, or triples up, I guess you could say, because he also plays one of the narrators, as well as Jamie and the Doctor. As of course I said quite a few times before, his impression is incredible. He gets all the rhythms quite right, and I guess he must have stepped up his game a bit here, because he's got Patrick Troughton's son there as well, Michael Troughton, so he must have stepped that up a bit, because he obviously didn't want to look bad in front of him, so he really does do a good job of that here. And then as Jamie as well, he does a wonderful job of that. His voice has hardly changed at all. He really can just go back to sounding like 20 or so years old, like instantly. It's amazing how well he does that. You know, I guess it's just healthy lifestyle is what's done it, because he really does sound seamless. Really does sound like he did all those years ago. Wendy Papri, on the other hand, you know, nothing bad about her performance. She really does capture the character still. Her voice has aged a bit, but you know, that's no fault of her own. You know, voices do age after 40 to 50 years, so you know, you can't really fault her there. But nevertheless, she does give a very strong performance, and after a while listen to it, it doesn't really matter too much, because you know, you just get into the character more than the voice itself, and you just accept the voice after a while. So that's all very good. And then you have Michael Troughton, who plays Quentrell, who's kind of like the scientist character in this, and a very interesting character at that. Very multi-layered. At first you don't really think that much of him, you just think he's this general scientist who's trying to help. But there are some revelations about his character, and you do kind of get a deeper insight into him, and that's quite nice, and it very much helps to make him a three-dimensional character. Then you have Abigail 4 as the villain in this, Zaadur, and Zaadur is sublime as a villain. She really is. She matches kind of like the Queen to Time from the previous story in terms of villainy. She doesn't quite have that kind of crazy voice, because obviously it's a different character. She's not kind of like this super being or anything. She is still mortal in this, I guess. Can't really describe the Queen of Time as immortal, but I think you'll know what I mean. She's not exactly a normal being, but in this, you know, she really does do a good job as Abigail 4. Not as Abigail 4, sorry, as it's not Quendrel, it's Zaadur. Oh, good God, it got there in the end. She does a really good job as Zaadur, and you know, like Quendrel, you know, she's an okay character for the first half. Then, you know, you start to get some more revelations about her character during the second half, which go hand in hand with Quendrel's revelations, actually, for the most part. And that's quite interesting how that works. And you know, it doesn't make her a relatable villain, but it makes you understand her a bit more. It makes you think, ah, that's why you're doing it. I still think you're crazy and evil, but nevertheless I can see your angle, kind of. So that's nice, that's good. And then you have Charlie Hayes. Doesn't get to do much as her character of Veltrina. If you're wondering how I'm remembering this, it's because I reviewed it 2 times before just now, because this is the third take, obviously. But anyway, then you have Nicholas Briggs as the Ice Warriors, and basically he does play quite a few different characters, actually, and you know, does a very good job with a lot of them. You know, some of them are just basic Ice Warriors, but some of them have a bit more to them. One of them has an interesting relationship with the character of Zoe. I quite like that dynamic they have going on there. It's quite interesting. You know, it's nothing romantic or anything like that, but it's just nice, something a bit different. And then there's another one which has a bit of an unrequited love story with Charlie Hayes' character of Veltrina. You know, that's quite a sad story, his is. But you know, you do feel like he's appreciated in the end, kind of. And you know, there's just something about his character that is really, truly sad throughout the story. He's very much fallen in love with his character, very much feels sympathy for his character, because he's got it so bad for the most part. But, you know, it's just a very interesting character, his is. So, overall, Lords of the Red Planet, how would it have been as a TV story had it been made? Wouldn't have looked the best. I will say that. It wouldn't look the best, because it would have involved a lot of makeup to kind of because all the characters, apart from the original cast of Jamie, Zoe and the Doctor, would have required a lot of heavy makeup to make them look like this alien race. It would have probably looked a bit like the Silurians in the new series, now that I think about it. Which, you know, says a lot about the Silurians in the new series, how they look a bit more like Ice Warriors than the original Silurians. But anyway, I won't dig at them too much, because this is about Lost Red Planets. But, you know, it would involve a lot of it, and also all the extras would have required that as well, and there are quite a few scenes in kind of like the city and whatnot, which would have required a lot of that, and you can see why halfway through Brian Hales shifted the action more into the mines where there were less characters going about. It's weird that they'd have had practically empty streets, or they would just not have had they would just had loads of really bad looking prosthetic characters. I don't know, it's just, it wouldn't have looked too good. It would have worked as a story, but visually, yeah, it would have probably been like really cheap. It would have probably been as bad as the Web Planet's production values. Yeah, I guess it would be interesting to see how they did with it, but at the same time, I think whatever they did, it wouldn't have been that good, unfortunately. So, yeah, as I said before, I'm glad this one wasn't made. Not because it's a bad story, but I think it works better as an audio, one thing, and also, it just, Seeds of Death is just purely amazing, to be honest. Seeds of Death is just a great story. I think most of you will agree with me when I say that. Some of you won't, but I think most of you will. So, Lords of the Red Planet, pacing. Let's go into pacing a quick bit before I rank this. Yeah, pacing is very much, during the first half, a little bit slow. During the second half, it works quite well. It fits with the style. 6 parts is a lot, especially in Big Finish, where they have the longer parts. But 6 parts, yeah, it works quite well, I think, overall. Yeah, 6 parts, I think. It's a bit overlong because of the Big Finish length, but I think had it been TV story length, it would have worked fine. But Big Finish length, maybe it could have done with losing 15 minutes or so on it. You know, like 2 to 3 minutes per half, just to cut it down a bit. I don't know, but that's what you get, I guess. And then narration in this as well, there isn't that much at all, to be honest. It almost completely sunk into the back of my mind. As if you watched my review of the Rose Mariners and Queen of Time, you remember me saying narration is a bit distracting, but in this it's hardly there. Maybe it's there because there's more cast, but you know, there is still narration, but it just doesn't bother me as much here. Maybe it's because I've gotten used to it being there, or maybe it's because the bigger cast, as I mentioned earlier. But either way, you know, I'm happy for it. I'm happy that narration's now kind of drifted back. Maybe to find out for sure, I'll have to go back and re-listen to the Rose Mariners and Queen of Time, which I'm sure I will do at some point anyway. But Lords of the Red Planet, let's rank it at last. Let's get on to ranking this story. 8 out of 10, I will say, because as much as I've been praising a lot of this story, I do feel that the first half does let it down a fair bit, unfortunately. But you know, that doesn't mean it's a bad story at all. I mean, 8 out of 10 is a very respectable rating, and a lot of that 8 out of 10 is built up of the second half, and you know, most of the strong points do come from that second half, because that second half is amazing. So I'd say get this and make it through to the second half, because that's when you will really start enjoying it a lot more. So what do I say, pick it up at the £17? I guess pence, really. I'd say you're better off picking up some of the other narration style stories, see if you like the narration style first. But yeah, I would say pick this up. Definitely pick this up if it goes on offer. If they have another offer where it's £5 again, just snatch it up as soon as you can, because it really is worth it at that price. It's a bargain price. Because I got it at that price, I can't really comment on whether it's worth the £17 or not too much, because that's not what I paid. But I feel if you're really into the Ice Warriors, then yeah, it's probably worth it, because you're going to want to know about their origin story. But if you don't care all that much about the Ice Warriors, then I'd say wait for it to go on special offer price again, and then just pick it up instantly. Definitely worth it on the special offer price. Worth it on the full price if you're an Ice Warrior fan. So then, or a Lost Stories fan. And so then, let's finish up this review now by saying thanks everyone for watching, and I will see you all next time. So until then, bye everyone.